Before we get into the video, in the next couple of weeks I'll be doing a review of the Potato Masher's second year and my past year with the channel. Right after that video releases, I want to do a Q&A or Ask Me Anything video as well, so if you have any questions about the Potato Masher channel or anything else, I might be able to answer them. Leave a comment with AMA at the beginning if you want me to answer it, or send me a tweet. There's also a channel on my Discord where you can drop questions. The link to that is in the description of this video. Today we'll be taking a look at Mafia 3 on the PS4 and the Potato Masher. If you don't know, the Potato Masher is a $375 PC custom built in 2014 and designed to compete with the PS4 for the rest of its life cycle. The goal is not to pick on consoles, but to show that PC gaming can be just as good or better for the same money. This may also be useful information for anyone gaming on a budget PC who is considering buying this game. You can also check out my test of the game on the Potato Masher Pro, my side project that competes against the PS4 Pro. Okay, that's a long enough intro, I think. Let's get into it. I'll be blunt, I don't think Mafia 3 is an especially good-looking game on either system. There are moments where you can see that the developers intended this to be a good-looking game, and sometimes the lighting and art line up and it looks alright. And the setting has a fair amount of care put into it, so it's not like this is a mindless cash grab or anything. I do think they tried to make a good-looking game. Unfortunately, at times it feels like it still has a way to go. Some assets look like an early PS3 game. Textures are stretched, models are low poly, and the game looks like it may have been ported from the last generation and given a lighting upgrade in the process, and given how long this game's development was, I guess that's technically possible. The PC version had a 30 FPS cap at launch, and both platforms had severe frame timing issues and frequent frame rate drops. However, by the time I was able to fit this game into the schedule, it had received a few patches, including PS4 Pro support, so now is a great time to take a look at it. The regular PS4 runs the game at 1080p and 30 FPS. I matched the Masher at 1080p and 30 FPS with a mix of high and low settings that I'm averaging out to medium on my scale, and here's what I'm using. Performance tip: if you're trying to improve your frame rates in Mafia 3, try turning down the settings that I've turned down. They made a big difference on both the Masher and the Masher Pro, and for what I could tell, you could pretty much max everything else out. Exact weather conditions are hard to match in open world games with dynamic weather, so don't confuse different times of day for better or worse looking lighting. The Masher has more volumetric light shafts, but overall shadows and lighting appear to be very close on both platforms. There are a few visual differences for many of the settings, and they don't have a large effect on the frame rate either. It's all fairly mediocre. One of two main visual issues I have with the game on both platforms is the softness. The temporal anti-aliasing can't be fully disabled, and even on low it does stuff to the image that I don't like. The bigger issue is the textures and anisotropic texture filtering. On PS4 it looks okay. Not amazing, not even current gen some of the time, but it's fine. On the Masher, the textures look worse. If you've watched this series for a while, you know that the PS4 frequently has much worse texture filtering than the Masher. That setting barely affects performance on most PCs, so I usually max it out. Well, Mafia 3 appears to have a dynamic VRAM setting, and the anisotropic texture filtering appears to be bundled in. I can't choose a preset for textures or texture filtering, the game does it automatically. And since the Masher only has 2GB of VRAM, the game restricts the anisotropic filtering, and the result is very blurry and bad looking. The textures don't look good enough to be worth 2GB of VRAM, so my assumption is that they're poorly optimized along with many other things in the game. This is definitely the first time the Masher has had worse texture filtering than the PS4, and wow, does it look bad. However, the Masher is a PC, so of course we can do something about that. I went into the NVIDIA control panel and forced 16x anisotropic filtering, and the issue was fixed. As you can see here, the textures look more or less identical on both platforms now. Since that's all I changed, I do think that's the problem. I've left that on for most of the rest of the video, so you'll see that the textures do look a little better from here on out at different settings and resolutions. It's an unusual problem on a PC game, and it's disappointing for a port to be neglected in this very basic area. So that's how the Masher compares to the PS4, but can it run the game at 60 FPS? Mafia 3 is very CPU heavy, poorly optimized, and there aren't many visual settings that can be adjusted, so the only way to get significantly better frame rates is to lower the resolution to 720p and the settings to low. Even then, the frame rate varies between 40 and 60 FPS and is rarely locked at 60. I know what you're thinking, 720p, low settings, and not even a locked 60 FPS? Wow. Yeah, I know. That's pretty disappointing. The only bright spot is that because of the softness of the anti-aliasing, the resolution doesn't look as blocky or bad as it normally would. That's not much of a silver lining, but it's there. So how about higher resolutions? At 1440p and low settings, the Masher does okay. It's mostly stable at 30 FPS with a few drops to 28 or 29 FPS while driving. Still very playable, and the higher resolution combined with the forced anisotropic filtering does make the game quite a bit sharper than it is at 1080p and without any texture enhancements. The parts of the game that looked good are still good, and the parts that were disappointing aren't magically fixed by upping the resolution, but it's a start. The PS4 Pro actually runs the game at 1440p as well, so here's the Masher on the left and the PS4 Pro, not the regular PS4 to be clear, on the right. The PS4 Pro does look a bit better, and it's not like this game is a graphics benchmark, but the Masher can match the resolution and frame rate of the newer and faster system if you can make a few visual compromises. Again, the game doesn't look amazing on any platform. My normal rule is that if a game needs me to edit in any file, download an unofficial patch, or make any edits not in the normal game settings, then I will happily show them to you, but I won't count that in the normal comparison. If a game is broken unless you poke around in config files, in my book, it's broken. If you can do something to fix it, great, but you shouldn't have to. The Masher's texture filtering looks much worse than the PS4, and as I've raked the PS4 over the coals many times for the same problem, I'm doing the same thing to the Masher now. Well, it's not the Masher's fault, but you know what I'm saying. Slightly better volumetric lighting and shadows don't make up for this issue in my book, and the PS4 wins this comparison. Go watch the Potato Masher Pro take on Mafia 3 if you want to see how much better the game can look. If you enjoyed this video, consider supporting this channel and the Potato Masher project by tossing me a few bucks on Patreon or hitting the like button. Thank you for your support, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.